So it's now day 5, and just recently we have now seen 2 eliminations. So Mr. Civilized has gone. He crashed his Queen and Navigator into Neptune rather than trying to go swimming for a while and maybe avoid last place, which perhaps he should have done, because not so long after, Sway gave up and allowed himself to be detonated by his own martyr. So you can go back in time and see that Jiminy just decided to spam his base and wear him down, and rather than escape, which he could have done because he had a backup outpost here, he just eventually gave up, and the base is gone at a sort of minimal cost to Jiminy. So what I've gained out of this is I didn't get any of Sway's specialists, which would have been nice, but I did get quite a few of his drillers at Stella, and I've also got 4 of Mr. Civ's specialists as captives. So if only I can get a hypnotist, then that will help things a lot. There was a miniature storm that has calmed. There was an sort of 4-way alliance between myself and Mono and Plowden and Jiminy, who was basically just providing intel against Phil, which succeeded in, well, succeeded at least as far as Plowden was concerned. Took to Metz. My job was to take Feld. The Queen came in at high speed on a smuggler, and I thought, well, if I throw the assassin at it, then something might happen. She might get spooked and leave and potentially become fodder for this pirate assassin up here, or she might send some troops at it, in which case I could have bumped up to a second general and done a fair bit of damage, or she could have hired a double agent and just gotten rid of it altogether, which is what happened. So I'm okay with that, because I more or less assumed that could happen. So at the very least, I gain a double agent. However, I'm not quite sure where that leaves the strategic situation, because we've now got 2 very strong bases and my weak but specialist armed bases sort of staring off at each other, and there's another 2 reasonably strong bases here. I'm having not a particularly good relationship with Raptor in red, because he asked for my support yesterday. He basically asked for gifts for Salt Mine. I would never gift directly to a opposing factory in my vicinity. He said he wanted them to sort of try and keep hold of Triton, but so I said fine, I'll send them straight to Triton, and then of course forgot to actually change my first one into a gift, so that did minimal damage and just wasted some of my drillers. And then I haven't turned the ones at Triton into a gift either, so it perhaps appears to Red that I'm just incompetent, and probably to Blue as well. Meanwhile, Red said that he would send a matching 36 to Goss, which I fully expect to be an attack, and I'm not too worried about that, because I will lose a net of 2 drillers from 6, sorry, from that as well, so I can live with that. The most interesting relationship is actually with Psydog. Psydog has been quite friendly. He's been talking about wanting to get a solid group of allies to go for top 3, and he hasn't sort of taken the bait of attacking Goss, even when Red was encouraging him to. He's got a Minister of Energy and a Tycoon. He's going to have lots of drillers. He's not quite sure what to do. He was AFK for quite some time due to parties, I think, and then has come back, and absolutely everybody has been offering him helpful advice on who to attack. So he is one of the strongest, and Plowden actually is now one of the strongest after he has successfully nicked quite a lot of free bases. He's got Temets. He says he might be able to get Raven and Walwend. He nicked earlier quite a lot of Mr. Civ's bases, so he's doing very well. And I think I've still got fairly good relationships with him. So I haven't been forced to get into a shooting war apart from finishing off Mr. Civ, and I can go through the replay of that because that was quite interesting. So he had Garfield. Mono kindly and unexpectedly gifted me a helmsman and an assassin that weren't particularly needed, to be honest, in this particular situation. But it was a nice touch. The idea was to use the assassin to get rid of those pesky specialists. I had previously managed to... Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I had previously managed to reinforce Garfield in time to at least capture and release the thief, so that got one of his specialists out of the way. He dealt with that, however, by sending his general to pick up the thief, and the thief then went back to Garfield, and his general was now at sea, but that was better for him because the general could still buff his thief. So I have just decided to charge down Garfield. If he ran it without his thief, he'd lose. If he ran it with his thief, he'd lose his thief. So in the end, he decided to try and get Neptune, or at least try and do as much damage to Neptune as he could. He must have realised that he couldn't succeed because he could see all my moves, and at the same time, he's run away from Red rather than gifting Red anything. He's run away with his Queen and a Navigator, and there was a nice little bit of multiple specialist action with this thief, because it turns out that if he had no bases left, which he didn't, all of my captured specialists will just return immediately to my nearest base. So I just ran 4 specialists into the thief and took out 50 subs for the loss of 6 drillers. So that was nice. One good thing that arrived. Then, of course, I threw 48 for no good reason that turned them into a double agent over here. So I have no idea where it's going to go. Red is the only one with a mine. Red is probably not going to fund me. And I will kill for a hypnotist to get hold of those specialists. Mono says he's going to have one, so if he does, and we agree to keep trading specialists, then both of us could be in a very nice position, because he'd gain an extra lieutenant and infiltrator, and I would gain an extra potentially admiral and an infiltrator, and I'd be willing to give him some extra trades in exchange for borrowing his hypnotist. But you know, I don't know if we are that trusting, but he has lent me stuff before, which I'm giving back, so might work. There is an awful lot of this game to go, and people are now becoming quite cagey, so it'll be interesting to see what eventuates. I reckon it'll go for a lot longer than a week, this game.